6. Red Army Tank KV-1. From the murky bottom of a riverbank, an old Soviet tank that used to protect Leningrad from Nazis has been exhumed. During the 872-day siege that started in September 1941, the KV-1 tank drowned in the Neva River near Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg. In the middle of November 2011, a group of troops used a floating crane to remove the massive tank from the water. It was discovered earlier that year in May and is currently on display at the Museum of the Battle for Leningrad. Experts believe that after spending decades underground, the tank can be restored to its former glory. The inability of the German Army Group North to take Leningrad resulted in the Leningrad blockade, or the Siege of Leningrad. On top of being one of the most deadly sieges in terms of casualties, it was also the bloodiest, longest, and most devastating in history. The KV-1 tank was notable for its powerful armor and attachments. It was named after the Soviet People's Commissar of Defense, Klement Voroshilov. The tanks could withstand hostile forces for days and were essentially impervious to enemy attacks. The tank sank with rounds still on board, but they were quickly removed to avoid danger. Thankfully, the ammo was not active, according to Andrei Bobrun, chief of the press department for the Western Military District. According to Mr. Bobrun, the fact that no crew members' remains were discovered inside the tank shows that they managed to escape the sinking war vehicle with their lives. 5. 28,000 duckies. In 1992, a cargo ship was headed to Seattle after leaving China. Naturally, it ran into some bad weather. Unfortunately, a shipping container fell off of the ship and landed in the water below. The ocean now had over 28,000 plastic toy ducks inside it. The toys were originally meant for First Years Inc., a company in the United States. The ducks would soon start traveling all over the world, and once people began noticing them, the incident turned into hot news. Their innocent appearance earned the little ducks the nickname Friendly Floaties. Despite originally falling into the North Pacific Ocean, the ducks were able to travel across the planet. As one might imagine, some popped up in the Pacific and washed up on the coasts of Hawaii, but they were also found much further away. About 15 years after they first dropped into the ocean, they made their way through Newfoundland and into the Atlantic Ocean, where they were able to pass through Arctic ice. Many got stuck in the process. Eventually, a few ducks landed in the United Kingdom. Other than cheering up anyone who sees them in the water, the friendly floaties have helped serve another purpose. In order to map currents, oceanographers have utilized their voyages over the world's seas. Scientists have learned how huge ocean currents are and precisely how long it takes for them to complete a circuit by tracing the ducks accurately from their starting location. The book, Moby Duck, The True Story of 28,800 Bath Toys Lost at Sea, was not exactly what author Donovan Hahn had in mind when he started his investigation into the disaster. He quickly recognized, though, that he was becoming fixated on the story and grew eager to learn every little detail. In order to find out more about the floating ducks, he had to leave his full-time job and his wife behind. He also had to start on an international journey with a variety of boats and a number of different organizations. Given that a large number of the ducks were never rediscovered, they now serve as collectibles. Many of the toys were either submerged in the water or got stuck in the polar ice, stopping them from reaching the beach where they could be picked up easily. The American toy distributor responded by offering $100 for each duck, despite the fact that open market sales of the toys have exceeded $1,000. On large transport vessels, shipping containers frequently fall overboard. The World Shipping Council conducted a survey in 2014 and realized that at least 2,683 containers are lost at sea annually. Since many of the missing containers aren't reported to the authorities, they think the real number could be considerably higher. As they're frequently made of plastic and are buoyant enough to float, toys are one of the most common objects found washing up on coasts. A similar incident happened in 1997, when a shipment containing over 1 million Lego pieces was lost. There are also stories of beachgoers finding massive quantities of computer equipment, car tires, and even Nike sneakers. It gets stranger too. Robotic hands and prosthetic teeth have been seen. Items lost at sea often float for years on end in open waters. The dogs still periodically wash up on coasts 25 years after the incident, and many other items have been submerged in the ocean for decades before washing up on shore. When a group of fishermen hauled a message in a bottle out of the water in 2014, they found a postcard dated 1913 inside, indicating that it had been in the water for nearly 101 years. 4. Sea pigs. The sea pig is an alien-like animal that lives on the bottom of the ocean in the deepest, darkest parts. The sea pig's pinkish body and plump form certainly resemble its namesake, despite the fact that it's not related to land pigs in the slightest. They are known for spending their lives in the dark looking for their favorite type of food, dead animals. They may have an adorable and charming look, but the living vacuum cleaners are somewhat threatening thanks to their poisonous skin, which is their greatest defense against predators. Sea pigs are actually considered sea cucumbers, and they breathe out of their rear, which is sometimes used as a second mouth in certain species. It doesn't stop there though. The sea pig's upper sets of antennae are actually feet. It's pretty hard to transport these creatures to the surface for research since they're commonly found 4,000 to 16,000 feet below the ocean's surface. Johan Hjalmar Thiel, a Swedish biologist who traversed the world from 1872 to 1876, first discovered sea pigs, one of these 65 new species he wrote about in his journals. 6 species make up the Scotoplanes genus, which has received minimal attention in research. The multi-legged sea cucumbers devour every bit of dead material they can find on the ocean for food. The sea pig has tube feet, which are extended appendages that allow movement, while other sea cucumbers are essentially large flesh tubes. There's a water vascular system that those tube feet are attached to. In essence, this means that they move under hydraulic pressure and hold a sizable amount of water. The sea pig's feet, which resemble antenna-like tubes on top of the animal, did not originally develop to help with movement. They instead provide the animal with the ability to decide what is and isn't edible. When food is abundant, sea pigs also congregate in groups, according to David Pawson of the National Museum of Natural History. To collect their food, sea pigs simply wait for marine snow or aquatic life above them that's died and sunk to the bottom. They utilize their antennas to find corpses once they've settled. The number of tentacles surrounding the mouths of these strange water monsters varies depending on the species. The animal moves by planting the smaller structures of each of those finger-like appendages in the mud in front of them. Sea pigs are constantly swimming against the current to collect food. Most of the time, the creature's diet consists of a variety of microorganisms. We only have a basic understanding of sea pigs since they're venomous, devour the dead, and live in the dark until they die, because our worlds are so far apart and almost never collide. For instance, we don't know if they'll live for another 10 years or 100. We'll have to wait and see. Have you ever heard about sea pigs? Let us know in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel if you like the video so far. 3. Vacation House. In the winter of 1977, the 4-mile route between Bayside, Wisconsin and Madeline Island in Lake Superior was frozen, but maybe not solid enough for a house to move across. In Minneapolis, Lyle Wright from Dale Movers was certain the ice was sturdy. In order to get the home from the mainland to the island, he had an ice road specifically plowed. The 4-mile journey began on March 2, 1978. For the first few miles, it went well. The trailer towing the house's tires finally pierced through the ice at the 3-mile point. While the truck was still in drive, Lyle and his passenger, who'd been cautiously keeping their car doors open, jumped out. In a depth of 70 feet, the vehicle sank first, which was quickly followed by the house. The vehicle was raised to the surface after the owner was ordered by the Coast Guard to recover the debris the next summer. Although the home was secured with cables in the hope that it wouldn't fall apart, they were unable to elevate it. Instead, it split into several pieces and is still lying on the lake's bottom. 2. Ancient shark far from home. An ancient Greenland shark, a monster known for living in the freezing Arctic, was one of the last things experts thought they'd find in the warm Caribbean Sea. But scientists accidentally captured a Greenland shark, or maybe a Greenland shark hybrid, off the coast of Belize while trapping and tagging tiger sharks. Greenland sharks are a species able to survive for decades in deep water. The first thing the researchers speculated was that it was a six-gill shark, a powerful and interesting deep-sea predator. But they documented the seldom-seen animal and determined that it was actually a Greenland shark. In fact, Greenland sharks are members of a family of sharks that have been present for 100 million years, dating back to the time the dinosaurs roamed the Earth. The sharks spend a majority of their lives below, in the darkness of the ocean, where they age, move, and develop. Moving slowly to preserve energy is a crucial adaptation in deep water where nutrients are few and far between. Because they can live for at least 2.5 centuries and maybe even longer, Greenland sharks are well suited for these conditions. They have the longest lifespan of any known vertebrate on the planet. There's no denying the fact that finding a Greenland shark off the coast of Belize near a coral reef was strange, but it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. In the deep waters around and in the Arctic, this relatively unknown species flourishes. According to researchers, they could also live in other parts of the deep ocean, even the Caribbean. When the researchers returned the next day after watching and researching tiger sharks, their line had drifted from the coral reef and into waters about 2,000 feet deep. At about 9,500 feet deep is where the slope of the neighboring reef ended. A Greenland shark might be able to thrive in this cold and gloomy environment. The finding of this Arctic shark serves as a reminder that just because we haven't seen something before doesn't mean it's not possible. Deep waters have a reputation for being poorly understood. 1. Message in a bottle. In February 1916, the German Zeppelin L-19, also known as LZ-54, just completed a bombing mission over the UK when it crashed into the North Sea on its way home. The 16-man crew of L-19 was found in the ocean by a British trawler named King Stephen. In the end, the crew all died. If one of the fallen crew members hadn't recorded the situation on a note he placed in a bottle and released into the water, the incident would have gone unreported. There were 2 notes in the container. February 2nd, approaching 1 p.m. will likely be our final hour, the Zeppelin's captain Otto Lowe wrote on the first piece of paper. The second, written by an unnamed crew member, included a description of the incident. Greetings to my wife and child. An English trawler was nearby, but it refused to take us on board. She was King Stephen and hailed from Grimsby. 6 months later, the bottle washed onto Swedish beaches. The British media responded to Germany's propaganda exploitation of the memo by reporting that the captain of the King Stephen declined to assist the German crew out of concern that they would capture the ship. When he stated that the acts of the British crew were understandable, the Bishop of London threw fuel onto the flames. There was also a German newspaper that was less than impressed. They reported that the bishop acted less as an apostle of Christian charity than as a jingoistic hate monger. A German U-boat sank the King Stephen before the bottle was first discovered. After being saved by the Germans, its crew was imprisoned until 1918, when they were released and sent back to Britain. Thanks for watching. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen on a beach or in the water? Tell us in the comments below and remember to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.